you, this is the software here. This bar is the first 25 of this 100 fly. This light blue is the start and the hand entry, and then the long blue line here is the underwater. This denotes the underwater metrics. So it took him 5 seconds to get there. He broke out at 14 meters, and his velocity was 2.7 meters per second. Now, if you take that time, and this is the surface, and you look at 1.65, 1.81, you can see that it's so much faster. So the goal is to have as much time of your swim underwater at that faster velocity. Now to a point, and it is a trainable kind of thing. So our race plan here was to take 9 kicks off the start, and we figured that would get us somewhere around the 13, 14 meter mark, and then to take 10 kicks off each wall. Again, to try to be close to that 15 meter and take advantage of that faster, the faster time there. And one of the kind of cool drills that we do, and I feel like really helps this, is we do, I call it a 6-second whistle breakout. The beginning of each practice, kids loosen up a little bit, and then we do a start, and I start them, start the stopwatch, and at 6 seconds I blow a whistle, and they break out, and they're counting their kicks, and they're trying to see how close to 15 meters they can get. And as you look here, Aaron, this is marker here is the 15 meter mark. He was there in 5.4 seconds. That's really racing. And for Aaron, you know, a lot of people, he was kind of a goofball sometimes. He messed around and stuff. But I tell you, when we got into the races, he was all focused. And he actually took 6 or 8 kicks rather here instead of the 9. And I think it was feel. I think he knew he'd be past the 15 meters. So he took 8 kicks, and he was right at that 0.4 tempo. And that achieved really good start. You can see he's already got a big lead on everybody. The next thing that I want to talk about is the surface speed. And surface speed is a combination of the distance you travel each cycle, each stroke cycle, and the rate that you travel during that. And the first thing I want to do, though, is just show you the cycles and make sure that we're talking the same language. So as he's breaking out here, the first hand hit he does is the beginning of the first cycle. The next one is the end of the first cycle. Second cycle, third cycle. And now he dives underwater to get to this turn. And this is one of the biggest mistakes he made in this race. I think he could have taken one more stroke. His velocity for this would have been faster. He would have been just really good in, but he dove down here. And playing around with your stroke rate allows you to figure out, and if you take the metrics meet after meet, eventually you'll find what seems to be right. And for Aaron and a lot of 100 butterflyers, 1.0 seemed to be about right for him. And so 1.0 and getting the furthest distance he possibly can. And for us, and for Aaron's swim, over 2 meters traveled, you know, 2.2, 2.3 meters traveled, pretty good. And I want to show you this software here. These, each one of these are the 3 strokes that he took. The first stroke, the second stroke, third. Then there's a gap here because he dove down. It really killed his velocity. We said that we were looking for a 1.0 average stroke rate. And so you can see here the high and the low, and the average was 1.06. So he did get into the rhythm of his cycle. And I do think fly is a rhythm stroke. He had real good distance per cycle, 2.9. Velocity, not so great because he, again, cut it off here a little bit at the end. The other thing that I want to show you is transitions, turns, and your finish. Obviously, that's set up by the few strokes leading into it. And Here, as you slow down and then you dive underwater, like I'm going to show you, is just, you know, it kills your turn. We'd like this approach to be more like this, to where it's consistent going in and you have all that momentum coming in. But this turn, and you can see he's completely underwater on this last stroke. The metrics, are the way we measure turns on the software, is from hand touch right here to foot push right here. And we'd like these turns to be around 1.0 or under if possible. And this turn was 1.26, so not real fast. He was underwater part of it, so not the best. But the 1.0 is just a good measuring stick, so you can work on that and you can see it. And I'll talk about some drills how to do that later.
So Kevin, the turn in the data bar there, could you go back to that? The turn is the purple portion, correct?
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, the purple part here, the end of this length and the beginning of the new length is what's denoted here in the purple, and then you can see it up here. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So, yeah, and as we're going, ask any questions here. So this second length, as he's starting out, he's still got good size, still got good tempo to that kick, and he's out there pretty good. Now, he took 9 kicks here, and when I do the rate, he's still right at that 0.4, in fact, 0.4 low, like 0.42, 0.43. That's really, really good. And you see he's out about 11 meters, I believe. Yeah, 11.2. He's still, look at his velocity, 2.6. Versus what he's able to do on the surface. So he took advantage. Our plan was to take 10 kicks. He took 9 kicks. If he took another one, he might be more like 12 meters or a little more like that. And that's really kind of what we were hoping for. But this is awfully good. His surface here, you know, he's long. He's throwing his arms forward. His hips are up. He looks pretty good. He hit there on a full stroke. And on the second length, you can see the metrics. Now, he took 5 cycles. His average was 1.06. And look how dialed in he is. I mean, the variance is 1.03 to 1.08. I mean, he's right there. And he allows himself to get right into the wall really good. His distance per cycle is 2.3. You know, that's awesome. So it's apparent he's feeling good. He's going through this race really well. This turn on this next one here was 0.98. And so because he set it up better, he's able to, I feel, you know, get through that turn pretty well. Here, still got pretty good tempo. And he's out a little bit further. He took 10 kicks on this one. When I do the numbers, and this is what usually happens later in the race, the tempo starts to fall off a little bit, but he's still at like 0.47, something like that. And he's out a little further. So he took 10 kicks. So I think he's feeling good. Here he's 11.7 meters out. Still got a great velocity, 2.4. That's awesome. He's utilizing that speed he's getting off the wall. Here, hip still riding high. Second kick in there, gets into the wall good. So his numbers on this third length, it took 5 cycles again. He's starting to really get into a good rhythm. 1.08, so he's still right about that rate that we're looking to try to hold. He's over 2 meters here. I think this is really, really good. He's getting there. I think too here, you can see maybe falling off just a hair at the end. He used to really have a history of falling off and gliding like he did on that first one. So this is, he's improved this quite a bit. set up his turn. This last turn was 1.15, so it's not quite where we want, but it's pretty good. And a lot of it is because he set himself up really well here. Now, not out quite as far here. And the numbers tell us that he was 10 meters out. And when I counted, he took 8 kicks here. So he fell off his plan a little bit on this last wall. And I don't know whether that was because he was getting tired or whether he just kind of got excited and wanted to get up on the surface and race and wasn't quite as patient, and maybe a little bit of both. But 8 kicks, his tempo is slowing down a little bit. Still keeping it long, and finishes on a pretty good stroke. So the numbers here for this last one took 6 cycles, and now some of that is because he was short on this end. You know, these two in butterfly and backstroke especially, these two make a difference. If you're a little short here, you're going to be a little longer on the surface, and vice versa. So here he was 10 meters, still got good velocity, 6 cycles here. He dropped off on his tempo 1.1 a little bit, still over 2. So that's pretty good. And you can see consistency, maybe falling off just a hair here at the finish. And talking about transitions, want to talk a little bit and show you on the finish. Let me go back. This 15-meter mark from the start end, this is the 15-meter mark from the turn end. And what we do in practice as a drill all the time, trying to get the kids to not breathe from flags in. And everybody does that. We try to do it from about 8 meters in. This 15-meter mark from that side is about 8 meters from the starting end. So what we try to do is when we get to that point, we're trying to hold our breath and get through those swims and through the cycles, and then nail that on a full stroke. And, you know, he's got his head up a little bit. I think he's eager to look at the clock. Our goal leading into this, I believe the national record was 45.7. So he really wanted to break 46 and go after it. He was 46.3, and it's still a pretty exciting swim. And again, conditioning has a whole lot to do with this. You know, I mean, you've got to be ready. Short course, you can stay steady a little bit better, keep your rate a little bit better.
Excuse me, Kevin. We had one question. Would you mind just going on at the full screen and just playing the race full speed?
That's what I'm. Yep, okay. That's what I'm going to do. See how he dives down there? It hurts it. You know, and I don't know if there would have been somebody right with him, if he'd have been faster. He would have thought it was a great swim. Tell you here, he looks up at the clock, and I was so excited. I was running around the deck. I'm going to congratulate him and stuff, and he was bummed because he really thought he'd be under 46 seconds. But great swim, I thought, all along, and the software allows you to really break this thing down and get an understanding of
Kevin,
how you can improve your race.
As long as you're in the software there, why don't we play the video and show how it tracks along with the bars there? And then I do have a couple other questions that have come up from the group. But go ahead and
So when you're showing this, when you're showing
video.
this to a swimmer, they can see this bar going across as the video is playing. And some of these tricks then begin to make a little more sense. And so many times I've had kids that, you know, you'll tell them you're slowing down going into the wall, and they'll say, oh, I'm not slowing down. That's crazy. But, you know, here you can kind of show it. Here you can also show the importance of utilizing that underwater kick and trying to develop that underwater kick, because it is trainable.
Yeah. Speaking of trainable, one of the questions from the attendees this morning was, how specifically do you train for velocity? And let's break that down. Velocity underwater, and then maybe velocity on top of the water, because you clearly had a plan for what happens below the surface and above the surface.
Yeah. Well, some of the drills that we do for underwater. Pause this. I talked about the 1 6-second breakout drill. I think that's a really good one for them to learn how to count how many kicks to take. But we do a lot of cross pool kicking underwater. So if you were to line everybody up on this side and go underneath the lane lines this way. Now our pool is 20 yards across, so we do 20-yard kicks here, and you can just take their tempo. Anybody can kick real fast if it's really small, and anybody can kick real big if it's really slow. But the key is to try to put those two together. So that's what's really cool, and finding that rate that they can go. 0.45, I think the research that I've read seems to be like what the elite ones can handle, but I think it needs to be decent size or volume to it, and then trying to find the tempo that they can be best, and then it's trainable. So we will sometimes do short bursts, even against resistance, using parachutes sometimes, trying to develop some ankle flexibility, try to get some power. We have this set, it's called a Lochte set. I got this from Ryan Lochte's coach at a clinic, where they are, if you can see my cursor, they're in the water in practice, holding onto the wall and doing wall kicking, either on their stomach or on their back for a set amount of time, maybe 30 seconds, maybe a minute. Then you blow the whistle, they drop down and they go underwater the length. So their legs are already tired before they got to go. So it's kind of good for that last turn, so to speak. And they really get into kicking. You can work on their tempo and those types of things. We add kicks, you know, making them take a set amount of kicks on every wall, and then trying to add that every week or a couple weeks. So those are some ways that we try to develop that underwater kicking. Surface wise, that's where you wanted to go, Scott, right?
Yeah. So yeah, the question was just velocity, and then I broke it down into underwater and then on top of the water.
Yeah. So yeah, on the surface velocity, you know, it is a combination between your distance per cycle, that you travel, and the rate that you go at. And swimmers are all a little different. Some people can create a better velocity if they slow this tempo down a little bit, and then this gets bigger, the distance per cycle. And then there are some that are the other way around. You know, they kind of have to have a faster tempo to go here. You know, the fewer strokes you can take in practice, counting cycles in practice is a great way to learn to be long. And then you can sprint against resistance. Any kind of strength training you do is going to get them stronger. And then when you add resistance in the water, it gives them that feel, and they can use that strength to develop some power. cycle counting sets and decreasing cycles, maybe descending a set of hundreds or whatever, and then trying to take fewer cycles. Those are ways that you can do that. We do a lot of videotaping underwater. Aaron and so many kids, especially on butterfly, have a tendency to drop their elbows on the latter part of the race. So videotaping, getting them to see and getting them to feel, keeping those elbows in a nice high position, I think is really important. A great drill that I do for kids that struggle coming home and lose that velocity is with a parachute. We will, like doing broken swims, maybe have them with a parachute. And let's say we're doing a broken 100 and we're going to go the first 50, break 10 seconds, go another 25, break 10 at the 75, and sprint back. I will have them put the parachute, tuck it away so it's not out. And then on that last 25, they'll pull it out and sprint against it after that rest break. And it really gives them a feel for bringing that race home and overcoming feeling tired, not dropping your elbow, those kinds of things. So those are the things that we work on a lot as far as surface velocity. But a lot of it is just trial and error, and that's what all your meets leading up to your big one are for. They're for learning.
Yeah. So Kevin, you mentioned, and I'm going to use this as a segue into a question from another attendee, Coach Josh Runkle. His question, you mentioned all these data points, and he'd like to know, do you take all the measurements, time, distance, etc., off of video, or do you do it on the deck at a meet or a practice? How did you and Aaron, or how do you and your team come up with the 0.4 and the 1 second and all these things?
So that's a great question. When Aaron swam this, me and a couple other people were developing an app called Swim Hero, and it was just in its early stages. So we did a lot of this with our stopwatch, and since then, after we've developed it, now you can go back with this videotape and you can really get specific. But as far as kick tempo, you can do it with your watch. As far as stroke rate, you can do it with your watch. And in fly and breaststroke, well, take that back. In fly, a cycle is one hand hit to the next hand hit, the time it takes to do that. Freestyle backstroke, it's one hand hit to that same hand hit is one full cycle. So you would take the rate. Breaststroke, since your hands are underwater, sometimes it's hard to see, so it's head pop, head breaks to head breaks. That's how we do that. As far as the distance off the walls and stuff, when I was working with Aaron, we would count kicks and we would eyeball it and take video, and then you can kind of eyeball it. And one trick that I use is, I'm going to let this play just so that I can show you. If this is 15 meters, 15 meters is about 8 meters off the wall. So I know this is about the 8-meter mark, so as you're looking at this, 9 meter, 10 meter, 11, you can kind of eyeball it pretty good. And it's difficult to do live. It's a lot easier to do on videotape. So that's how we can sometimes get the metrics, practice and things. Great thing about SwimCloud is, you can take practice video and you can put it in there and it can show you how to do that as well. You can get the metrics from practice too. You can do quality sets, broken sets, anything like that. And it allows you to break the swim down pretty good.
Excellent. You want to talk about which type of video? This video was clearly taken from the stands. What about deck level video that a coach might have? What are the considerations there?
Well, it's doable for sure, but it's best if you're really gonna break it down and try to run the software on it. It's better if you have a clean one like this. You can do it on the deck. It's more difficult, I think. So having a parent do it is really good. And this is so simple. I have sometimes parents up videoing it and then going ahead and doing, we call it stamping, to get the metrics. Here, I just wanted to show you how easy it is to get the swimmers to understand what the metrics mean.
Another question that just came in from Coach Wes at Waukesha Express. Did you film every race at every meet? And then, basically, how did you come to the understanding of the numbers between what you see as the coach and what Aaron and your other swimmers would, experience through the drills or, the actual competitions?
Yeah, what I do is we will video, whether it's a manager, whether it's a parent, an assistant coach, we'll have somebody up in the stands videoing. High school wise, we'll video all the whole meet, and I like to put it up so the kids can watch the races, and then we have the ability to do the analysis if we want to. Do we do the analysis on every single swim? No, but you have to do enough of them to have some comparisons. Invitationals, if you're at a club invitational and you've got a ton of kids swimming and they're swimming multiple events, there's no way you can do it all, but you can pick and choose, and you can get some of them, then another meet, get some other kids, and try to do it that way so that you can compare, because that's the key to finding this out. And like I said, all those other meets are stepping stones to get to this, to your ultimate race. Yeah.
Sure. All right.
Awesome.
Does anybody else have any other questions for Coach Kevin? If so, go ahead and hit us up. But Kevin, we're right at our goal time of about 30 minutes to keep it, short, sweet, and interesting. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, just I appreciate doing this. Everybody should check out SwimCloud, swimcloud.com. There's a lot of cool stuff on there, and storing video, analyzing video is only part of it. There's so much with recruiting and everything with SwimCloud that it's worth taking a look. I appreciate Scott having the opportunity to do this. It's a lot of fun, and I love to share.
I just want to, there was a question asked about pulling video off of another program like Huddle or something else. Typically, I have never worked with Huddle, but all you need is a video file either from your phone or a computer, and it can be uploaded to SwimCloud to do this data analysis. Anyway, everybody, thank you for joining us today. It was really great. I'm going to get rid of my mug. We are doing another one of these next week. We're going to be, Coach Kevin here is going to be working with Coach Mike Parado, Reagan Smith's coach, and we're going to be breaking down some of Reagan's swims. We'll post the webinar information on that to the channels as well. So with that, attendees, thank you for joining us today. Coach Kevin, thank you.
Thanks, Scott.
Yep. We hope to see everybody next week. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.